finally doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's incredible. I know, like, from everything you've shared, it seems like this just very abrupt change, right? Like, your family are all religious Jews, and then you go off in a different direction. But tell me about this, because I think that this story of this painting that you had in your family shows that Jesus was with your family before you even knew him.
This is quite a story, okay? This painting has blown my mind and changed the way I even look at how God takes the smallest details and weaves them into this magnificent story for all of our lives. So this painting has been on the walls of my family, my household, my family home, whatever you want to call it, since I was a little boy. I know it so well. I walk past it every single day. And when I became a believer in Jesus, I walked past it the one day and I stopped and I was like, oh my goodness. I've never really bothered to read what was on this paint. I mean, you see Hero Israel like in bold, right?
Yeah.
And then I looked at the Hebrew, at the Torah, and then I looked at the English and I was like, but he was wounded because of our transgressions. He was bruised because of our iniquities. His sufferings were that we might have peace, and by his injury we are healed. I'm like, Jesus dying for us has been on my wall since I was a little boy? That's crazy. And I called my dad and I said, Dad, come and look at the painting. And he looked at it and he said, yes. And I said, have you ever bothered to look at this painting? And he said, sure, it's some rabbi writing something from Isaiah.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, Dad, you should, and I said this to him quite cheekily. I said, Dad, why don't you ask the rabbi to help you understand where in Isaiah this comes from, and perhaps he can even explain what it means. So this was hanging in my house since I was very little. I would say 3 decades. I walked past this picture.
So the most famous passage of that, in the scriptures pointing to the coming of Jesus and his sacrifice.
Right.
It was there in your family home all those years. And I think that it's amazing how God is in our life all along.
My mom purchased this. When she was working in a Jewish bookstore, she purchased this.
Wow.
And my dad knew it so well, and it really speaks to something God did in my father's life. Now, I invited my dad about 13 years after coming to faith to come and hear me speak at a Passover event. And he was sitting right in front of me, and I was speaking about Passover, and I got to the point of the Passover where when you pick up the hyssop branch and you dip it in the blood like the Israelites had to do, and they had to mark it on the doorposts of their home.
Right.
And then the angel of death passed over. We all know the story. And I just asked the question and said, what if God has sent another lamb whose blood has come to save us? And if we mark that blood on the doorposts of our hearts, what if God has a plan for that too, and death would pass over us?
Wow.
And we could be freed and redeemed and sent to the promised land. And when I said that, he stood up.
Your dad.
My father stood up, tears rolling down his face. He raised his hands and started shaking. And I walked up to him and I said, don't you? And he said, yes. And I said, it's Jesus, Dad. And he said, yes. And I took his hands and I